I got a question from one of my members said, hey, Britt, what do you think about people raising their children a certain religion? Like, do you think it's unethical? Do you think people should be allowed to raise their children certain religious, even though it may lead to trauma? It just seems like, especially for someone like Islam, which unfortunately disallowing being gay, like explicitly, like it seems there's a lot of harm that could happen there, which worries me. I think this person's a very young person, so let's take that into consideration. I really feel like this is a good question. I think this is a good question. I also think sometimes when you use Islam as like the example, it allows Christianity to get away with their homophobia and transphobia. So we want to make sure that we are holding all patriarchal religions that are anti-LGBTQIA equally responsible, given that they all share Abraham and they all share a lineage. So it's really not unique to Islam. We want to talk about that first. I will say, though, as a queer kid who grew up religious, obviously, I think there was a lot of negative consequence to that. There's always a joke that my mother's children all need therapy. And it's interesting because the way we talk about my lineage is we talk about my mother. We put a lot of the responsibility on my mother for how we were raised because we came from her body. There's something really deeply, almost like spiritual about the process of bringing a baby into existence and then seeing that baby grow and then knowing how deeply you are connected and love that baby, how much you labored physically for that baby. And then understanding that you might have to, because of your religion, reject that child. Okay, there's something really deeply just devastating about that. I don't think it's unique to religion, though, that children are born into bubbles that indoctrinate their children into believing certain things about certain people, including themselves. That's why we call it internalization. So if you have internalized homophobia, it means you heard how other people talked about gay people and internalized that description about yourself and then wanted to not be that, so you reject it. I'm not like other gays. I'm not like other trans people. I'm not like other people. I'm not obnoxious Tumblr gays. I'm different. Same thing with women. We internalize the misogyny and then we become pick-me's, or we talk badly about other women, or we don't know the difference between holding somebody who's an adult accountable because, not because they're a woman, but because they're an adult, right? So it's internalized. Here's a really good example I want to give you from Hamza, who Hamza goes on basically like Omegle and basically trolls Israelis. But this one's with Bassem, which I think is so interesting. It's just a very quick clip. Here you go. So basically Hamza is Palestinian. He shows up. He goes, hey, he goes, where are you from? And they go, Israel, Israel. And then he goes, I'm Palestinian. That's like every video Hamza puts out. So here you go.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, hold on. Let me turn up the volume. I had all my volume down.
Hello. Hello. Where are you from?
Israel.
I'm from Palestine. The little kids, they are very innocent, mashallah. The kids are from a very young age, mashallah. Ahbabullah, yakhti alayhum. Hello. Hello.
And notice, like, these are black girls right here, maybe Ethiopian Jews, and here they are right away, like flipping them off. It's not even about skin color. This is just a whole bunch of brown people mad at each other over what? Cultural expectations. But look at Bassem's patience. And though I have a lot of criticism for Bassem sometimes, I think that generally, like, this is the right response to children. And it's about recognizing how young children are indoctrinated. Now, even if you have good intentions, I think the dilemma here is that the road to hell is paved in your good intentions. So the question about whether or not it's ethical to raise children in religion comes down to whether or not you notice the harm that it causes or does not cause. There's a TikToker named Jeffer who recently posted a video about his mother and him having a conversation about him coming out. It's honestly incredibly triggering. We're not watching it on my channel. It's too much for somebody who's West Asian, whose mother is basically this is my mom. Like, and I wouldn't put my mother on the internet because honestly, I don't think you guys deserve her. Even though she's a bigot and she voted for Trump and she's homophobic, she's my mother, who is the first woman in her family to get divorced. She is my mother who labored 10 children out of her body. So, okay, but watch this conversation and know how devastating it is.
Upset about
it. It says coming out to my Muslim mom.
And then if you am quite upset about it, and then if you maybe and you don't want to change, but maybe later on in life you change your mind.
I would want to change. If I could snap my fingers or press a button and change my sexuality, I would, because I can see how upset it's made you. But I can't. Like, I want to change, but I know you can't change your sexuality. Like, how are you meant to change it? Just change the way you think? No, like, that's not how it works. You can't just change the way you think. But, like, I do want to change, because I've always wanted to change. I would stay up every single night praying that I would be straight and I'd wake up straight and I wouldn't like boys. Like, I would do that since I was literally 10 years old. I would pray for that, and it never worked. There's nothing that you can do. Like, you like, and there's no changing that. You can't change your sexuality. I'm, like, almost certain of it.
You like boys?
What?
I'm quite upset.
This, I mean, it's insane to me because she looks so much like my mom, but I've had this conversation with my mother. My brother's had this conversation with my mother. I mean, he looks like my brother in many ways. This is not only just devastating for the children, it's devastating for the parents. That's why I tell you I have an open with boundaries relationship with my parents. I can't just cut them out of my life, but I can create distance, respectful distance, right? This is a very painful process. And if you know, you know, but if you don't know, you can shut up about it. Because if you don't understand, if you're the kind of person who's like, fuck my mom and dad, I never need to see them again, like they're nobody to me, my real family is chosen, I love that for you, girl, then shut the fuck up when it comes to our families. Because that is not our lived experience. We're having a completely different biological experience. We're having a completely different relationship with our family. Like, you don't know what's going on. You don't know how it tears at you, you know? But it is real. It's real. The parents are suffering. The kids are suffering. And you could argue the suffering is from religion, but I think it's from introspection. I think plenty of religious people have found a way to say, my religion's for me and it's not for you. And I think the problem is when our parents aren't introspective, aren't extrospective, aren't considerate that other people live different lives, then they inflict unnecessary pain on their kids. I really am not an anti-theist. I'm not anti-religious for this reason. I don't care that you're religious. I care that you forgot your religion was for you and not for me.
Okay.
I think if you force yourself
To change, you can change.
Yeah.
You can't change, Mum. You can't. I'm like certain you can't change your sexuality. If there was a way you could change, people would know. I mean, yeah, people would know about it, but like, I'm certain you can't change it. Like,
How people they know if you change it?
what do you mean? Like, other people have. What do you mean?
I mean, if you try to change your feelings, how other people they will know?
They won't. I don't know what you mean. Like, if I pretend to be straight, how would other people know what? Know that I'm gay?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I am thinking, is all my fault?
You shouldn't blame yourself. Why would it be your fault? Why would it be your fault?
Because I make you to grow up not liking an environment.
Oh, you mean like... No, but it's not your fault because, like... You really, really love... I think majority of it is biological, but I think a part of it is your environment. But you did everything that you could have. You really, really loved me growing up. Like, you were there for me all the time. You were really loving and kind towards me. And that's, like, all that I could have asked. Like, you did everything you could in terms of that. So you shouldn't... I think blaming yourself is so stupid. You shouldn't blame yourself. I don't blame myself. It's not my fault. And, like, I'm aware of that. So it wouldn't make sense for you to blame yourself either. Don't you think? But, like, it is what it is. You can't do anything about it. And I'm not going to get a boyfriend or start, like, getting close to boys or anything like that. I'm just going to hide it. But, like, that's why I never had friends who were boys, like, throughout secondary school. Well, actually, I did have one or two. But, like, majority of my friends were always girls because like, I didn't want to be friends with boys because I was attracted to them. I didn't, like, want a friendship. Does that make sense? Yeah, anyway, so I'm going to ask you some questions. So,
Basically, the conversation goes on where he says, I'm not going to get a boyfriend. I'm going to stay single. I'm not going to date for my family. We've all gone through this. If you're in this bubble, I think my siblings and I have all had this conversation. Like, I'll just stay single. I, even as a kid, was like, I'm going to become a nun, you know, as a way to sort of like say, I'm not going to date anybody, but then I'd be surrounded by girls, you know. Yeah, like the kids are really going through it, and we're going through it young. And we know young, and we have thoughts young, and we're struggling young. And again, this goes back to sort of a conversation about the ethics around raising your kids religious. Always comes down to the ethics of you understanding the harm you're causing on your children. But it's a real struggle. Religion makes you feel like you have to pick. And I'm saying, what good is joining a religion or being in a religion that makes you pick between your kids and your God? But that's the whole thing about patriarchal religion, especially Christian Catholic religions. You know, that's the whole Abraham Isaac story, right? God says to Abraham, you sacrifice your only son for me. And Abraham goes to kill Isaac. And then God goes, JK, it's a test, JK. And it's like, fuck, like that's kind of the problem here. So I think the issue is when adults don't have a strong relationship with the differences between their beliefs and other people's. And I think that's why I'm so anti-patriarchy, because patriarchy comes with this idea that they have the entitlement to dominate. They have an entitlement to make the rules. And that's why I think our parents do these things, because if they didn't have the patriarchal element of it, I think their religious relationship would be personal, more or less. Now, I want to sort of pivot this into a conversation that's happening over on Atheist Religious YouTube about Dan McClellan, who actually had to come out recently because his audience seemed confused that he wasn't an atheist. Now, I've been watching Dan a long time, so I knew he was a theist. I didn't know that he was a Mormon, which is very interesting. Wasn't raised a Mormon. He'll tell you about it. But I think Dan does a very good job at doing his job without making his religion, without being... without making it, this is Dan McClellan, without pushing Mormonism on his audience, so much so that his audience is literally struggling to realize he's not an atheist. Like they're in the comments like, wait, I am so confused. I don't know what's going on. They're literally having an identity crisis that the guy they loved and promoted because they thought he was an atheist is actually a theist. So again, it's not just about parents having children, it's about how adults handle their relationship with religion. So here we go.
I'm seeing an uptick in the number of folks who are commenting on my personal religious background, so I thought I would offer a few pieces of clarification. Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion. Clarification number one, I am not an atheist. You are free to feel any way you like about that. I harbor no ill will whatsoever towards atheists as individuals or as a group, but it's not a group with which I identify. Even though I will come to the defense of atheists and atheism frequently, I am not an atheist. Clarification number two, I am an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the LDS Church or the Mormon Church. And for 10 years, I was the scripture translation supervisor for the church. But I was not raised in the LDS Church. I joined the church when I was 20 years old. Again, you are free to feel any way you like about that, but I am an active member of the LDS Church. I was not raised in that church. Clarification number three, my personal religious beliefs have nothing to do with the scholarship that I share on this channel, whether my own scholarship or my attempts to try to represent the scholarship at large. Again, you are free to feel any way you like about that, but when folks try to assert that I'm some kind of apologist for Mormonism or the Book of Mormon, or that I feel the way I do about these scholarly positions only because of my Mormonism, you are betraying an abject and a laughable ignorance of both Mormonism and my scholarship, and it is rather embarrassing. So you can save those comments. I am not an apologist for Mormonism. My scholarship is not under the influence of Mormonism, as anyone who has any appreciable degree of understanding of either already knows. So I hope that has been helpful for y'all. Obviously, you can feel any way you like about my clarifications, and you are free to comment in any way you like. But for those who are actually curious about my own personal religious background, that's what I have for you. I don't talk about my personal religious beliefs on my channel. It's not what my channel is about. It will just get in the way of trying to represent the data and the scholarship, whether that's the broader academy or my own scholarship. Hope that's helpful, and the fit for this video has been the captain.
So his comment section, this is so hard to understand. Okay, but why? The question isn't your affiliation. It's about how you reconcile your scholarship with belief system, because it's with your belief system, because it's very difficult to discern how you get from one to the other and hold your beliefs and your scholarly understanding simultaneously. This is a tough one to watch, but how? Honestly, I'm confused to hear this. It does seem like a conflict of interest, but you seem to navigate it well. I did not see that coming. I'm somewhat confused. Whoo, you know what I'm saying? So there is an ability. I think it's very hard. I think Dan is very skilled at it, separating his own personal relationship with God and what he does on his channel. And I only wish that other religious people could be as skilled as Dan in this, because as much as I might have heat for Dan personally, maybe over these things, he also has been pro-LGBTQIA, pro-women's rights, pro-abortion rights. Like, he's talked about legality and coming to terms with sort of choice. And so that's why I think people also thought he was an atheist, because he certainly isn't like any Mormon I've ever met, I also thought it was cute that him and Britt Hartley did a little collaboration together because, she was infamously Mormon. Okay. I want to give you some examples of just a couple of people talking about Dan's recent video, just as an example. This is a short little video.
My personal religious beliefs have nothing to do with the scholarship that I share on this channel.
If an evangelical Christian scholar said that their belief in eternal hellfire had no impact on their discussion of biblical texts, would you believe them? When we're talking about religion, a topic of cosmic significance, the idea that we can so cleanly separate data from our personal beliefs is at best an illusion.
You are betraying an abject and a laughable ignorance of both Mormonism and my scholarship.
Look, I have no beef with Dan's Mormon affiliation, but to call genuine skepticism laughable and ignorant certainly doesn't earn my trust. Trust is earned through our transparency about our worldviews. Can a scholar of religion ever truly be objective about their work?
My personal religious...
This comes back down to often political conversations people have about Joe Biden being a, quote, Catholic, but then being pro-choice politically, and him saying, as a politician, it's not my job to tell other Americans that they can't have abortions, even if I'd never have an abortion. And I think that this is where Catholics really hate liberal Catholics, because they're like, no, you're a Catholic first and a political person second. So when we talk about parenting and raising our children, how you can't start banning religious people from having kids. First of all, that'd be billions and billions and billions and billions of people on this planet. Second of all, it'd be deeply, deeply cruel to control people's bodies to that extent. In what? The name of saving children? We're animals on a planet. We're going to have to carry the burden that our children will be impacted and traumatized by religion. And that's why we do our best to help children out of that journey to the best of our ability. Right? But I think there is something to be said about a person's inability to do this, I think, is a problem. Right? So yes, everything is political and everything is intertwined, but I would rather live in a world where adults attempted to learn the differences between rules for you and rules for other people, and assuming that everyone had to. That's why I don't make prescriptions. Right? That's why I don't make prescriptions, because even though I'm doing something for my values, I'm not telling you to do it. You should do it because you think it's right. And the question is like, what do you think is right? It's also why I say all the time, I will protect Muslims at any needed point, because Muslim people don't deserve to be discriminated against because they're Muslims. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might disagree with this religion and I might have strong disagreement to this religion. And yet I will never have such a strong disagreement to your religion that I will allow you to be beaten, kidnapped, killed, or anything because you are religious. And this goes for every religious person. So I think we have to be very careful about this idea that like, oh my gosh, they can't separate it. Like, if they're religious, they can't separate it, because what you're doing is you're allowing people to feel dignified and killing your mother and father because they, quote, can't separate their religion from their beliefs. You know what I'm saying? So like you got to be very careful with the, what is the conclusion if this is the premise, right? Chat said, question, can you be religious and not subscribe to everything, i.e. get an abortion? I'm not sure. It depends on the religious institution and the rules that religious institution has set forth for its people. So it's very dependent, I think. Okay, here's another stitch from Summer.
By Dan McClellan fans. I'm kind of entertained by Dan McClellan fans losing their mind over the fact that he is still a Mormon and practicing member of the church. I think it's so difficult for us to remember that other people have different ideas and opinions. And we need to leave space for that in this pluralistic society that we are in. It's like we see a person who we admire and looks normal and we're like, oh, I like that person. Wait a minute. They think different things than I do? How can this be? It is wild that people are saying like, hey, please talk about why you still believe what you believe. Because it's like, you can't even talk about why you like pepperoni pizza on TikTok without people tearing you to shreds. Can you imagine him talking about his beliefs? So, I left the Mormon church. I do not like it. Also, a lot of people who are in the Mormon church, they don't pay tithing and they don't believe a lot of the things that the church teaches, like the people in Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. So anyways, I'm kind of entertained.
I think the issue is that we forget too that a lot of people don't go to church because they deeply believe something. Sometimes they just go to church because they like their friends and they're there, or their community is there. So going back to this question from the chatter, do you think people raising kids religious, what do you think about people raising their children a certain religion, right? Like, I think it's less that you're raising your kids religious and more about your relationship. And do you understand that the world doesn't revolve around you and your religion? So that's the dilemma that I'm seeing in a lot of these conversations. But I think it's fair, and we're all in a different deconstruction journey. And I think it's really hard. Like, looking back at my life, I used to tell people that, like, oh, I was a hardcore Catholic till I was 19, but that's a fucking lie. Like, even when I was a Republican, I'd be like, oh yeah, I was Republican till, like, I think I re-registered like at 21, Guys, the whole time I was there, I was fucking asking questions and arguing with everyone. I was literally the only Republican advocating for LGBTQIA people, so much so that the other Republicans started to ask me, like, hey, are you gay, bro? And I'm like, what? Me? And they're like, are you a homosexual? I was like, no. Ew. And then I came out at 21 and re-registered and the whole thing, okay? When I was a Catholic, and I was going to confirmation camps and everything, I was constantly like, hold up, I have a question. I was literally kicked out of nun camp for asking too many questions about gay people and abortion. So even the way I identified myself was almost to get street cred from the Christians. Like, I was one of you. But the truth is, girl, I mean, I was one of you, but I wasn't like one of you. You know what I mean? And so I think that's the dilemma we have with the way we tell our stories about our identity, is we'd like to believe like, oh my God, I was a hardcore. I was so there. Were we though? Were we there? I mean, at 15, I literally begged my mother not to force me to get confirmed because I wasn't sure about Catholicism. And then she was like, you have to do it no matter what. And I was like, okay, which, by the way, our priest friend says was a no-no, that I had to do it of my own volition. So technically, does it even count, really? You know? So I think that's the dilemma. It doesn't sound like Dan McClellan. It sounds like he personally is finding something out of Mormonism that is helpful for him. Great. If your parents personally find something out of religion that's helpful to them, amazing. I think the issue comes down to the prescriptions we make, the way we force our kids in a direction, the way we talk about people around our children, like the way my parents used to talk about gay people. Really, I really like heard that and internalized it. And I really felt like that's why I was suicidal since I was 8 years old. Cause I was like, oh no, like I hear the way my parents talk about gay people. Like I hear it and I'm like, uh-oh, like, am I that gay person? And I went through that stage too, where I was like, I'm not going to date people. I also went through the stage where I felt bad for women. I made this whole video during lockdown because even though I understood my position, I hated the idea of putting a woman through that, of putting somebody through dealing with my family. And then I realized that it was okay for me to ask a woman to deal with my family. I used to think it was like a burden for them. Like, why? I don't want to cause unnecessary pain and suffering on people. And so I thought, like, why put a woman through that? But the truth is like my partner will help me fight my battles, you know? And then there's open with boundaries. Like, I think that plays a role. Like, I mean, it's not like, it depends too on how the life goes. Like I live in a different country as my family. My parents haven't even met my partner. I mean, they haven't even talked to him. Like, you know, they've never really had a phone call with him. They don't know him. And at the end of the day, like, that's the biggest part of this is like, you're only as involved as you are involved. Because otherwise, and this goes back to even if I was single again, I think about this all the time. If I was single again, like, I wouldn't just move back into my family bubble. I would try to like probably form a little bubble with my gay siblings or something. And then we'd be like together because I couldn't go back to that bubble. I think conservative parents underestimate how triggering and traumatizing their bubble is for their kids. I mean, my siblings and I message me, they're always messaging me like I was hanging out with the family, but like I can only take like an hour and then it's over because they don't allow a space for us to have equal say in belief. Like, yes, we can argue. Yes, we debate, but it's always like the default is their religion is more right, which is why this gay boy here, Jeffer, he is absolutely putting himself to the side for his mother because that's how we're raised. We're literally raised to say our existence is secondary to our parents' comfortability. And by the way, I don't like the way y'all talk about our parents. I actually fucking hate it. And I actually think this is why I remember I watched a podcast with a bunch of people of color talking about how their parents beat them. And I was like, this is a safe space. I don't like the way sometimes people who aren't in these bubbles talk about our families, as specifically like a certain type of white person. I don't want to have this conversation with you because you're actually not helping me feel reassured about my family because you don't understand the ties I have to my family. So many of my white friends are able to cut their family off and never talk to their parents again. I don't want to talk to you about my family because like you don't get it. You don't have hundreds of people you're connected to because you look the same or you have the same bloodline. You don't have 17 uncles and aunties. Like, you don't have 60 first cousins. You don't understand what it means to be a part of a community. And so for you, you're just like, oh yeah, I'll just cut them off. Like, I hate talking to certain white people about this experience because it feels just as equally unsafe. Because you're not understanding how much we love our family, that you cannot replace. I would rather my mother than you every day, but not because I don't love you, and not that I don't want to spend more time with my progressive friends or something, but that this is my mother we're talking about. A woman who experienced 14 hours of labor just to bring me into the universe. I'm not going to sit here and scoff at this woman. You know, this is between us. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes when we have these conversations about like how evil are our parents evil for bringing us, I think it's so much more complicated and nuanced than that, you know? Like, it's so much more than the world could ever understand. I do, and I would recommend that if you bring a child into the universe, I hope you spend as much time as needed to work on yourself and to love your kids and to do your best with explaining to your children that, like, I might not agree with this, and this is my belief, and give your child a chance to share theirs. And I think there's like a level of intimacy that I cannot explain to you that exists in households where you have these types of conversations with your family. Like, it's a very intimate process that I just don't see other people having. So I would just like you to think about before you bring a baby into the universe, okay, to answer this person's question, is to think about the impact you're going to have on that child, because it's going to be real. It's going to be so, so real. I mean, heck, if the impact of a TikToker named Dan McClellan was so impactful, his adult audience is having a fucking, then how do you think your child's going to feel? Right? Discord said, has Dan always been open as a non-atheist? I'm so confused. Yeah, as far as I know, Dan has been pretty clear that I don't know, because my partner and I do watch him enough that we were under the impression he was a theist. Or at least, like, it depends on how much you watch of him and how you hear his content. But like, these people are typically educated in religious institutions. So then the follow through is if you're educated in religious institutions, then now the question is, okay, because you don't just do that. That means you probably have ties to a religion. I just didn't know he was Mormon, right? But look at his adult audience having a midlife crisis over Dan McClellan coming out as a theist, even though, you know what I mean, he wasn't trying to hide it. Now imagine, you know, your family dynamics with parents and kids, right? Chet said, how do you recommend navigating parents who left their religion but still enact the exact power dynamics from it? I still don't have a say in conversation, even though verbally they say I should. I think I don't know, except to say that I am experimenting currently, as you guys probably know, with an open and boundary situation with my parents, where I'm telling them, okay, so my sister tells me the other day, she's at a get-together with family members. And my mom goes to the family members like, Brittany's still not talking to us. And they're like, oh my gosh, is she okay? And my sister was like, she's happy. She's like really happy. I just talked to her the other day for like 5 hours on the phone. Like, she's so happy and she's happy. Everything's good. And they go, okay, as long as she's happy. And then my sister goes, wait, why aren't you talking to mom? Like, do you want her to like, can you explain it to me again? I was like, girl, if I have to explain it to you 1,000 times, no wonder mom's not getting it. My parents cannot understand what I'm trying to do. Not even my siblings. My sister finally got it, I think. But I have to explain it to them because it's the first time in my family I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to tell them, we have to have the conversation for real, for real. We cannot debate. We cannot talk over each other. I need to have the real conversation. I'm not trying to tell them to be anti-religious. Like, even my sister was like, are you asking them to be okay with gay people? I'm like, no. She's like, are you asking them not to be Republican? I'm like, no. She's like, are you asking them not to vote for Trump? I said, no. And she goes, well, what do you want them to do? And I was like, I want them to have a real conversation about our brothers, about our family, about our uncles, about the issues in this family. I want to have a real conversation about our grandma getting married at 10 years old. I want to have a real conversation about the issues in this family. And she was like, man, that's really tough. And I was like, that is really tough. I just want to have a real conversation. Now, the dilemma is they might not ever do that. And then the question is, will I be willing to see them on their deathbed if they're unwilling to do that? Or should I put this aside and just have regular conversations with my parents, which, by the way, are basically small talk at this point, because what the fuck do we have to talk about if everything comes back to philosophy and politics? Like, my family's very political. So guys, every conversation comes back to philosophy and politics. So then we have to talk about the stuff in the family. Do you get what I'm saying? So yes, if my parents want to talk to me, they can call me. We have to have a real conversation because everything is connected. My family's the trauma my parents experience as children absolutely impacts and contributes to their relationship with their religion and politics. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, everything about our family dynamic is connected to the trauma in this family. Everything we do is connected. So again, it's about deconstructing and pulling it apart together. I wish my family could come together like a group project and all of us go, oh, you remember the time this happened? Okay, let's talk about it. Oh, remember this? I want us to have an open dialogue about the impacts of being in a community that loves each other so unconditionally and yet is so conditionally traumatized, you know? And so, yeah, I want to have those conversations. Until we have those conversations, I cannot in good faith call my parents and tell them about my day. Because remember that because of their religion, they couldn't come to my wedding. Remember that because of my brother's religion, my partner and I, like my nieces and nephews, don't call my partner auntie or uncle because we're not religiously married. I want you to process that information. My nieces and nephews don't have an extra uncle in the family, which is such a blessing because of religious differences. Do we understand the impact of what this is? This is such a big impact on children. You are now stealing away from those kids any incentive or connection. They're not even going to think of my partner as their uncle. Because even when I talk to the kids, I have to reference my partner as Mr. So-and-so instead of Uncle so-and-so. That is, you took away an uncle from the family. You know, and God knows when those kids get older and they learned about gender deconstruction, it's going to be a whole other thing. So yeah, like, can religion be incredibly damaging? 100%. Yeah, 1,000 billion trillion %. And can it be something very rewarding for people? Sure, 1,000%. I just think we obviously have to take responsibility. And it's not just religion, guys. It's bad parenting in general, right? It is also parenting in general. We act like secular parents are good. They're not. Atheist parents are just as shitty. They're just as homophobic and racist. They're just as awful and bigoted and misogynistic. They also have problems. Like, God knows. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, I don't see a clear difference between, what if your parent was Sam Harris or Richard Dawkins? What good is that? What good is that? Nothing. It doesn't help. It's the same bullshit. You're still being raised by white supremacists, like bigots. You're still being raised by fucking, you know what I mean? Islamophobes. You're still being raised by misogynists. You know, like, so what good is it? You know? So again, for me, it's not the fact that you're an atheist or religious. It's the fact that you're just like a shitty parent. And it's because you're a shitty adult. And it's because you haven't done the work to deconstruct your shitty childhood. And it all goes back to that. Look, I'm very empathetic. We're all animals on a planet. I understand it's not your fault. It's just the reality of your circumstance. We have to be responsible and we got to do something about it. You know? Here we are bringing babies into the universe without ever working on ourselves or giving our child self like any kind of healing or closure. You know? What are you going to do? Chet says, Britt, my heart goes out to you. Very similar situation with my mom. Unfortunately, many reminder lies or block things entirely. It's important to look at your values. If they pass tomorrow, how would you feel? It's a deep convo on the realistic change that will have the relationship you're okay with too. Heartbreaking. Yeah, I mean, I'm at the stage right now. I'm 37, so it's a very different experience. I'm really ready for my parents to die. It's okay. Like, I accept it. I understand. My parents are old. They could die tomorrow. I'll be sad. I'll cry about it. I'll take time off stream. But them living isn't adding goodness to my life. Their presence, active presence in my life is causing me more harm. So I love them so deeply. I love them more than I'll ever love any one of you fuckers, okay? And at the same time, like, yeah, they're really, really, even casually having them around is just not helpful. You know, it sucks. That really sucks that I'm in that position. I shouldn't be as their parent. You know what I mean? And I think that, or as their kid, I shouldn't be in that position, but I am. So here I am. And, you know, it will be like, oh, Brittany did this. Oh, Brittany's the reason. I'm the kid. Even though I'm the adult, I'm still the kid in the situation. So once again, it's like the kids have to be the bigger people. But with peace and love, my everyday life is so good right now. My marriage is good. Our everyday life is good. We're so queer and safe in this bubble. You know, my in-laws are pro-LGBT, like they're anti-Trump. It's just such a good, safe space. You know, I have my bestie's parents. I call them all the time. I'm always on the phone with my bestie's mom, and she's known me since I was 9 years old. So I have adults in my life I can call. You know what I mean? I had mothers on Mother's Day that I called. I had 3 different women I got to talk to on Mother's Day, and I would have loved that 4th to have been my mother, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? My mother is an adult. If she would like for me and her to have a good relationship, the ball is in her court. They are 100% capable of having a good and healthy relationship with me if they would do the work. And if they would do the work, I would absolutely love to talk to them every day, all day. My mother and I are the kind of mother-daughter that would talk to each other every day on the phone. There was a time in my life I wouldn't even go a day without talking to my mom on the phone. So I tell you this, I know what it's like to be in a space. And this is why I say, I was just catching up with a friend about this, where they were like, during lockdown, I was worried you were going more conservative. And I was like, honestly, it's because when I'm around my parents, the only way, my sister and I just talked about this, the only way for us to be in my parents' presence is to find anything we have in common, even if it's kind of like a lie, and kind of like talk about that one thing. So during lockdown with my family, which was an amazing experience in some ways, yes, I had to almost become not really conservative in my embodied belief, but almost in the way that I spoke in order to even create peace in the family. But then what that did was betray my actual belief, and it betrayed my audience. So then that was the era of my life where I made like not the greatest content, because it was reflecting what was happening in my life. And I was like, oh, no. I need to make sure that my family problems and my family language stays in my house. And when I come to work, I express my most honest, transparent, embodied self, because like, I do not want the masking I have to do for my family to ever fucking show up here. And that's what I think was happening. You know, now that I look back at that content, I was like, oh, no. I got to deconstruct, embody, move forward, and be unapologetic. Because again, like, this is the one space I have to be unapologetically myself, because my parents don't watch my content. My relatives don't watch my content. I don't have to worry about them watching my content. This isn't for them or about them. And this is why, though, I think in many ways my past was about building bridges between conservatives and liberals, and because I wanted to believe that if I could help strangers on the internet build bridges and connect them, maybe I could save my family. And then I went through a huge philosophical journey, and I realized that it was not my job to hold on to the attachment of outcome, and that regardless of the outcome, the goal should be about doing the right thing. And so that's what I'm doing now. And it's really working. I sleep pretty good at night. You know, I mean, I've never really slept great at night, but I sleep pretty good at night, you know? Yeah, what are you going to do? You know? Let's see. Anybody have any comments or questions on this? Chess, I'm in a place where I feel like my mom is just one good convo away from seeing the light, so I'm making it my mission to open her eyes this year. After that, we'll see. Good luck. Honestly, I love that, though. I wish our parents could see that. I wish our parents could see how much we struggle because we miss them. Like, I wish they could see this stream and understand how much we love them. Like, I wish they could see this video. Like, you know, honestly, I don't love that he put his mother on the internet, because I don't think the internet deserves his mother. And I actually don't love this. It's the only video on his YouTube channel that's truly doing amazing in views, because it's so relatable, but I'm not going to watch it. I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to see your mom get dragged on the internet, and I don't want to see you get dragged either. And yes, it makes for good content and it's relatable, but like, fuck. Like, you don't deserve my mother. The internet is not a place that deserves my parents. My parents are too good for the internet. And I say that as somebody who recognizes that they're bigoted. But like, the truth is you don't know what my parents have been through, and you don't get to speak on them. I get to talk about it. You don't get to talk about it. Okay. Discord said, you def made me realize my parents were centrist growing up, and I've never been conservative. Yeah. Like, that's the other part of it that I think is so interesting too. Like, I think a lot of people, you know, who knows what your parents do or everyone goes through or how you see your parents. But I just find that there's a very specific group of people who understand exactly my lived experience, and it is a very specific one. But it's like, even when I talk to other religious, evangelical kind of people, I'm like, I don't know what you're going through. I don't get it. I don't know what this is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what this is because I'm not having the same experience. And I think that's what's so interesting and beautiful about me sharing my story is it helps you reflect on yours and vice versa. You share your story, it helps me reflect on mine. And kind of knowing which one you're in is very, very important because it will help you navigate what to do, right? It will help you navigate, you know? Chess said it's low-key a fantasy. I have to just go to lunch with my parents and our values align and I can talk freely and they just agree. Ugh, I know. Oh, I know. Ugh, I know. Me too. Yeah, me too. Right? Chess had attachment to the outcome. Absolutely, girls. Absolutely. Like, it freed me so much to know, like, I'm just going to do the right thing. And I think loving my parents from a distance is the best thing I could do right now. I love them so much. But I don't think it's helping them for me to have faux conversations with them. I remember a few years ago, my mom goes, there's a drag queen or trans woman. I think she was a drag queen. I don't remember. She died and the Catholic Church recognized her. And the local church, and my mother was so upset. And she said, maybe it was a trans woman. I don't know why I keep thinking she was a drag queen, but I don't know. Could be both. Maybe she's both. But my mother was like, I don't understand this. Isn't this offensive? And I said, I don't know. Talk to your local priest. I don't know. The priest allowed it. It's not my business. And my mom was like, why can't I be a feminist? I was like, you can be. You can be a TERF, trans exclusionary radical feminist. She goes, I don't want to be a TERF. I just want to be a regular feminist. I was like, okay, then you can be a Susan B. Anthony feminist. And she was like, I don't want to be that. I want to be a modern feminist. I was like, okay, then you're going to have to deconstruct patriarchy. And she was like, I don't want to do that. And I was like, okay, you want the title without any of the work. And I hear you. There are all kinds of feminists. You can be all kinds of feminists. You can do all kinds of things. Okay. But you can't be invited to the feminist cookout that I'm going to create. Sorry, barbecue cookouts for the Black community, I believe. Purely. I think about cookout. I think Black community. My bad. You can't come to the get together. Okay. Until you do the work, okay? And my mom she wants to be included so badly, but you can't just be included. This actually reminds me of, okay, I'll just mention it really quickly. My Discord and I are having a conversation right now about Chelsea Fagan's new video about Ariana Grande's body, which I think is like a very inappropriate video. But Chelsea throughout the whole video is signaling like centrist feminist. This girl is signaling liberal feminist. She keeps saying common sense. Like, girl, Chelsea specifically said she stopped hanging out with younger people and watching younger people, and she's only watching divorced women over 50. Girls, divorced women over 50 are still deconstructing patriarchy. Chelsea's a feminist and I'm a feminist, but Chelsea can't hang out. She can't come. Do you know why? Because she's literally signaling conservative values. She likes Scott Galloway. She literally talked about how much she loves Scott Galloway. Like, what are you doing, Chelsea Fagan? And it's because she's rolling around. I can tell who she's hanging out with. Do you know what I'm saying? I can tell who she's hanging out with. And I would love for Chelsea to come and hang out at the feminist barbecue, but she literally is like a very specific type of feminist. And I'm like, you can't come. Common sense. You know what I'm saying? Common sense. No. Okay. And this is what I mean with all of our parents, with my mother, with everybody else. Like, you guys want to be invited, but you don't understand why we have an issue. Why are people kind of trying to control me? And even Chelsea was like, look, if that doesn't make me woke, whatever. That's so conservative of you to be like, if that doesn't make me woke. She goes, do not insult my common sense. Girl, have you been watching Dave Ramsey? Okay, literally, like, you know what? It's just so silly. I say that as somebody who does watch a lot of Dave Ramsey, who, by the way, I do love how much they tell women to get divorced. Do you know Dave Ramsey's community, which I watch all the financial shows, so it's not unique that I watch Dave Ramsey, but they have told so many women to get divorced over the last year that their own audience was like, why do you keep telling women to get divorced? Isn't this a Christian channel? And they're like, yeah, we're going to tell women to stay in abusive relationships. Like, even Dave Ramsey has been telling women to get divorced. They're like, divorce, leave him. Do you know what I'm saying? So listen, as somebody who watches a lot of Dave Ramsey's channel, I like his other personalities better. I think that they give incredibly good advice to Christians. I love when someone tells someone to get divorced. It's my favorite thing to hear. Okay, so Again, like I'm here for a little bit of change. So Dave Ramsey is a good example. Some of the conversations my mom and I could have that were safe were about Dave Ramsey. Oh, hey mom, did you see Dave Ramsey's step? We're on step so and so. Oh, hey mom, like this was a safe space. Like my family's very Dave Ramsey, so it was like a safe conversation to have with the family. You know what I mean? Like you pick and choose the safe conversations to have with your friends and family, but it's not just about safety. It's about connection. That you're so desperate for connection, you'll settle on Dave Ramsey. You're like, okay, sure. Yeah, I watch Dave. Let's talk about money, I guess. But damn, how deep of a relationship can you have if you know you're sidestepping the truth? Like my mom and dad can tell. They'll say like, what are you hiding? They'll say, oh, I can tell you're not talking. Oh, I can tell you're avoiding. Like, it's not like my family doesn't say it. It's not like we're not white people. We're not wasps. It's not like people don't call you out and say like, you're not saying the full, say it. Say what you're thinking. Like we're very in your face, like say it. So it's not like we can just be in a conversation together and pretend something isn't happening. Oh, somebody's going to say something. Me, my mom, somebody's going to say, I mean, heck, I think one of the biggest ways to say something's happening is to be silent and just be like, make a facial expression at your sibling. And then everyone goes, and then mom and dad go, what? What's happening? Say it. It's a very different experience. So again, all of this to say, I wish parents would do more work before having kids. And I wish kids could go on a journey of healing as fast as possible to remember that their parents are human too. And though it's their first time on the planet as well, it is your only time on the planet. So I hope you fall in love. I hope you live your life. I hope you find it in your spirit to liberate yourself from the constraints of your family legacy and to remember that you have a very short time on earth. And I hope you spend it radically loving yourself and radically loving others.